Alright, got a little bit different video today, putting more gauges in my truck. Now, my truck for a while has had just the speedometer and the voltmeter and the fuel hand, that's it. It's been annoying me, and I've been wanting to get this project, and I didn't want to pay $500 for a set of gauges for a $1,000 truck, so I kind of looked around. I knew that I wanted mechanical gauges because where I work, as you can see, not the best of roads. And generally speaking, I've had better experiences with mechanical stuff than electrical, because this truck is an electrical nightmare at times. So all my gauges are mechanical. My air gauge is from Vire, which is one of the best names in the business for air management. That's actually my tank gauge. And then I've got Bosch. Now, I've had good luck out of Bosch. I've had Bosch fuel pumps, Bosch parts on my truck. And I've always revered them as kind of one of the better names. So whenever I got to looking for gauges and I saw that they had a set of gauges that fit my needs for my price, I went with them. Now, I'm not saying they're on par with ISPRO or Autometer or anything like that. You know, I can get 2 gauges for the price of one Autometer gauge. Now, to be fair, I'm not saying that cheap is always good, because there's a fine line between cheap and junk. But this volt gauge, it seems to be accurate, which, I mean, it's one of those things, as long as it's within a certain percentile of accuracy. This is not a race truck. I'm not looking for that extra specific degree. I'm just looking for roundabout ideas of, you know, do I have more than X amount of oil pressure? Or do I have, you know, now the voltage is one of the things you definitely need a specific number on, because that can denote a lot of things. But, you know, with my voltmeter, you know, I've had exceptionally good luck so far with it. And I like the style of it. It's clean, it's simple, and while I wanted white needles, they didn't offer a gauge that would perfectly match this one right here. There was like the hours gauge and stuff like that. You could get those that had white needles, black face, and a chrome surround. But for what I'm using for these things for, the black surround, black face, and orange needle is cool with me. I like that it's got big numbers. I like that it's very easy to see after dark. Basically, my gauge system is, my truck will look like a jet fighter's cockpit after I'm done. But this is my air management gauge showing I've got 175 psi of air in my tank. It's a 5-gallon tank. My voltmeter, I'm working on my oil pressure gauge. I'm going to have a water temperature here. And so I've got my big 3, you know, voltage, oil pressure, and coolant temperature there. And that way, that generally speaking, going down the highway at 75, all I have to do is just glance over, and I can see a roundabout idea of what's going on with my truck. And then what's going to happen over here is this will be moved over, and I'm going to get one of the Super Duty versions like a friend of mine has. Neil's got a very clean system, and it's going to have my vacuum / boost gauge, air fuel ratio gauge, and there was another one I was going to put in there just for the heck of it. And then under the hood is going to be my fuel pressure gauge. Now, the reason it's not up here is because I don't want fuel in my truck on the inside of my cab. Having oil and coolant is bad enough, but fuel, well, I mean, my dash is painted. I've got, you know, I just don't want fuel mixed into my truck. But I do want a fuel pressure gauge on the basis that, you know, while I'm diagnosing stuff, or just if I've got the truck running and the hood up, I can look over and be like, okay, you know, my fuel pump is doing its job at the specified PSI that it's supposed to put out, because, you know, if it's running higher or lower, that can tell me a lot about what's going on. But the main thing of today's video is simply how do you put one of these gauges in? A lot of guys don't know how to do it. I'm not saying that they're not manly or they're, that they're wrench stupid, but some people just simply don't know how to do it. Now with the gauge, because it's one of those things like this, it looks really pretty. It's all nice paint matched, nice clean looking gauges, but what's under that? So without, getting too far in depth and off the beaten trail, this is the gauge that I'm using. It's the Bosch FST 8216 gauge, and it's simply a 2-inch oil pressure gauge, and this is what it looks like. And it has a little kit that comes with it, and I'll go over that, but that's generally speaking what it looks like. It's just a clean looking gauge that tells me roughly how healthy my engine is, that how if I'm going to need an engine rebuild here soon, or if I'm driving down the road and it goes to 0 psi, well, shut that bad boy off. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to start with assembling as much as possible, so the only thing we have to put in here is the gauge itself, and then from there I'll show you how to mount the gauge. And as far as what goes on the back side, being mechanical, it does have to have a analog feed from the engine, which is what this is. Now it says made in China on the back, and to be honest, I have no problem with Chinese made parts. I mean, I've gotten exceptional use out of Chinese made parts, and I've gotten terrible use out of US parts before. So it's for less than $20 a gauge. I think this one was like 17. Voltage was like 14. My air management gauge there was 25, but and that's just one of them. I've actually got a dual needle. It was over $30 just for it. But just for a simple gauge, it's like, hey, you got this or you don't have that. This seems to be the ticket for me. Now, what you're going to get with this kit, and it's an exceptionally simple setup. This is not the line that comes with it, and I'll show you why. I did not use the provided nylon tubing, but you have your 2 mounting posts. This is where your light comes on. It's just a simple little small bulb, and it just pushes in. It does not come pushed in like so. Whenever you get it, all this is separated, but this is what the bulb looks like. You can find those bulbs pretty much anywhere. And this is what it looks like in the backside. You can actually see some of the internal pieces of the gauge there, but yeah, basically this just pushes in, seals off the light from the backside, which projects it out onto the rim. You see the white rim there that kind of projects the light around, makes it a smoother lighting effect, so it doesn't just have one blob of light coming from the top. And then from there, the back side here, you got where your actual oil comes in at. Now, it's just simply a compression fitting. It has the cap, and under the cap is the little ferrule, and then you have the fitting itself. Now, this is all one-handed stuff here, so bear with me. There we go. I cheated. I used 2 hands. Basically, what you're looking at is you saw how that the line came in from what would be the left here. You need your ferrule to, which is the centerpiece there. You need it to, the wider flange goes against the inside of this to seal it. And the conical piece on the other end fits in right here. And it squeezes the plastic line in between, sealing it off. Pretty simple design, nothing major. Just don't squeeze. You can squeeze too much and cut the line. You can squeeze it not enough and get an oil leak there. So just, finger tight plus, say, a turn or so. If you did any kind of work, you can, with plastic lines, you can tell. And basically, this is the end that goes into your engine block. Now, I'm going to wrap mine in Teflon tape just so it has a better seal. But as far as this goes, it's got two different adapters. You've got this one, and then you've got this one here. And if I'm not mistaken, mine takes the bigger one. But it comes with a bunch of other adapters and so forth. That way that, you know, it's kind of a universal thing that you should be able to easily find what you need in the kit. And if not, then, you know, it's a couple bucks for extra. And this is why that I do not advocate the use of the nylon line that comes with it. I actually have DLT grade airline, 1/8 inch, because that's what this is 1/8 inch line. You can see that, well, this has been formed in a circle for so long that now you can flex it and it snaps right back to the original circular shape. But the problem is, if you flex it too much, then you can see the deformation in there. And let's see, let me find that point. Yeah, right there you can see, if I can get it out there, you can actually see where, when I bend and flex this, the kinked point. And right there it is. Flex it too. And now I'm not saying that the airline is going to be, you know, some miraculous fix, but this is just so stiff. I don't care for it. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm going to use my airline for the time being because I know it's going to hold up to heat and pressure. But yeah, that became a weak point right there, that could rupture, putting hot oil, all over the inside of my cab. Now it's not going to like spray me in the face or anything. The only thing it would do is just run down the A-pillar and into the floor of the truck. But I don't want that. Let me get the other end here. Basically, you saw how stiff that was. Now watch this. This is the DLT grade airline I use for same stuff. I've got my airbags and stuff here too. But look here how flexible that is. And it was coiled the same way, and it's had, you know, 24 hours to relax. But same thickness, same overall width, and it's again 1/8 inch. But yeah, it in my opinion, much better quality of line for what I'm doing. I think over the long haul, it's going to hold up a lot better. All right, now I know I kind of skipped around on this. I explained the parts that go into the gauge up there, and the install is simple. You're just basically clamping it in place. Given that you did like I did and went ahead and put the gauge in, you've got your line ran up here. I actually just zip tied mine up out of the way just so I could get home the other day from work. And now we're moving to the meat and bones of the whole gauge installation for an oil pressure gauge. If you take a look right there, let me get the camera down there. The brass piece right up here, right there, you can see it. That real shiny brass piece. I just twisted it in. That is one of the adapters for the fittings that will be going on to the line. Now it's just a simple compression fitting is all it is, so you know the drill. If you've ever dealt with compression fittings before, then you should have this. You got your fitting with the single flare right there set up, and then you have your removable ferrule in there. It's been a pain, it's twisted. There we go. Just like I showed you earlier, it's just two of those, and basically all you're doing is just sandwiching the line in there, and this is what spreads the line to make it seal. But other than that, that's about it. Now for removal of this, it's something like 1 1/16 inch, I'm wanting to say. There is a specific tool from Lyle that will let you clamp onto this thing, or you can do like I did and simply use a good old set of adjustable wrenches. That way that it wasn't really in there to, I'd replaced this once and it simply never worked. I mean, gee, I wonder why with all the oil caked on it. But at the end of the day, this is nothing more than a 6 psi pressure switch. It's just simple on and off, that whenever you use those, when it reads 6 psi coming from the engine block, sends that signal via resistance to the gauge, and no matter if it's 6 psi or 100 psi, it'll tell you, hey, it's running normal, which is incorrect. It's just what most of us guys call an idiot light. It's just basically, hey, there's something happening. Don't know what really, but something. And that's why I want an actual readout, not just normal, whatever normal is. I mean, normal could be 50 psi because there's no numbers. But generally speaking, that's it. You just remove the old pressure switch, and like I said, on the 4.9s, it's on the driver's side at about the 1 o'clock, 12:30 position from the oil filter. It's about a 1 inch and a 1/16 socket, or in my case, an adjustable wrench. Then you simply, like I said, you screw in the first fitting first, the little adapter there. Then you screw this in, and then you just simply put the cap and ferrule in with your line of choice, and you should be good to go. Now, again, don't over tighten it. I mean, you want it snug, but you don't want it to cut the line so that it causes leaks, and you don't want it too loose, or it'll just back off, and you'll be going down the road, and bam, you've shot out your oil. But yeah, that's about it. I know it's not as informative as I like to usually get, because it's pretty gnarly weather here. I'm actually out in the t-shirt and shorts, but it's wet and kind of cold now that I'm getting to think about it. And just kind of a guide, I guess you'd say. You know, this goes here, that goes there, and boom, there you go. Because it does come with instructions, but more vehicle specific is what I was getting to with this video. But there you go. That's how you roughly put in a oil pressure gauge on a 4.9 liter inline 6. Alrighty, here is the golden moment. I have not tested this yet. I don't know what my gauge is going to do. I don't even know if the thing's not going to leak. That's why I'm doing this here at home, and didn't do this part at work, which I could always just put the old sender unit back in, but I prefer not to do that. I trimmed my line back, so I've got some slack, because I want to take some zip ties that have the little spots so you can just put a self-tapping screw in. And I want to actually put my line up to the bottom of the frame. I mean, not the frame, but the cab there, all the way around into my A-pillar. That way that it doesn't chafe, it doesn't rub. That way something doesn't just grab it, you know, in case I run over, you know, say something in the road. It doesn't grab it and rip the line. But this is it. This is go time. Engine is cold. It hasn't been started but once today, and it was for like 3 minutes. And yeah, here we go. We're going to take and let's see, there is my oil pressure gauge. And hang on. Sorry about that. I had to get the keys. Truck is in neutral. Fuel pump's priming. And there we go. Well, that's a good start off. It's cold. 30 psi. Still climbing to 40. And let's see, 45, 50. Okay, so 50 psi on a startup cold with 305,000 miles on this thing. I'll take that. I mean, it's actually somewhere in the ballpark of about 52 psi. If that gauge is correct. I noticed it said made in China on it, but I've had good luck with Bosch fuel pumps and other items, so here we go. We're just going to make sure it isn't leaking up here. And just use you guys. Yeah, I don't see any oil gushing out, so we should be good to go. I don't see any dripping. So yeah, there we go. Oil pressure is working.